Welcome, everyone, to Reset Your Hormones, a webinar presentation by Dr. Carolyn Dean, doctor and naturopath extraordinaire. I'm Ginney Sanders. I'll be your host today, along with Dr. Carolyn Dean. And as I said, the topic is resetting your hormones, and you are in for an absolutely incredible educational overview of how your thyroids actually work. What are the catalysts to stabilize and balance them? And how can you be at your physical best regardless of where you are in your cycle of life? It's incredible, important information that you're going to want to stay tuned the entire time. Let me give you a couple of pointers too. We will take questions throughout the webinar. You can use the chat line to submit your questions, but if for some reason we don't answer your particular question, go ahead and send it to us at questions, questions, at drcarolyndeanlive.com. That's questions at drcarolyndeanlive.com. I'll type that email address into the chat line for you. Also, please note, we will be giving a gift package at the end of the webinar that you'll be particularly interested in and will help you reset your hormones. Without any further ado, I'd like to bring on Dr. Carolyn Dean, just such an incredible educator. I've looked at the slides for this presentation, the amount of information that you're going to get. You're going to feel like a doctor, and you're going to be able to take power over your own health, make your own health choices, and benefit your body in a way that makes most sense to you. So welcome, Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Thank you, Ginney, and thank you, Chad, in the back office, projecting our slides. And I'm going to go right on to the next slide, Chad. We call it the Hormone Puzzle. And when I went through med school, endocrinology was just so mysterious. It was so difficult to try to navigate what was going on with the thyroid, the adrenals. Forget about it. We didn't even go there. And the ovaries, certainly everything about the PMS and menopause was very difficult. I went to med school during the time when women people were taking Premarin, and then it wasn't too long before we realized that estrogens were causing cancer. And then there's the hypothalamus and the pituitary working to push the organs. The thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, was pushing thyroid hormone. If it got low, ACTH pushed the adrenals. Follicular stimulating hormone pushed the ovaries to produce more estrogen. So it was a puzzle, and it's only been the last few years I've realized that all these hormones just need the right building blocks, and they just have to keep away from infections. So the next slide that we'll go to talks about the hormone blockers. So what we've got in our bodies is the right roadmap to make our hormones. And then because of environmental factors and infections, we block our hormones. The chemicals in our food, air, and water, I think there's about 80,000 chemicals now. The Xenoestrogens, the synthetic estrogens, have been found in plastics, and we know we're a plastic world now, so they're disrupting our hormones. Prescription drugs do it, a bad diet does it, yeast toxins do it, chlorine and fluoride in our water and in our dental products block our hormones. And we don't know what bacterial toxins may also be blocking hormones. There's not a lot of research on it. But I know for a fact that yeast toxins will block hormones. There are 178 different yeast toxins, and some of them cross-react with the different hormones. That's information that is in the literature, but medicine really doesn't deal with it because they don't know how to treat yeast or yeast toxins, so they just ignore it. In the next slide, this is just a a few words about the xenoestrogens, the various pesticides, as I said, plastics, petroleum products, polystyrene, combustion byproducts that are xenoestrogens. Now, this is not being said to scare people because I know decades ago when we were first made aware of all these toxins in our environment, everybody tried to avoid them. It's like people wanted to put themselves in a bubble and ignore what was not ignore, but protect themselves from what we were learning about the environment. But that's not very practical. So in the following slide, what I look at is the way that I propose to treat hormone imbalance. And under the RX, it's basically give the right building blocks for making hormones and give the right building blocks for detoxing hormone blockers. That's it. I mean, that's as simple as I can make it. And it is as effective as I can make it as well. And the next slide, this is the overview. This slide is going to come up, half a dozen times in this webinar because this is what we're doing with our complement formulas. This is for sex hormones, thyroid hormones, adrenal hormones. It's diet, it's detoxing with saunas, with coffee enemas, with our detox supplements. Our Realign has the methylated Bs, the methionine and taurine, which are sulfur amino acids. The liver detoxifies by methylating drugs and chemicals and by sulfating drugs and chemicals. So you have your methylators and your sulfur. Number 3, the supplement nutrient building blocks, REMAG, REMITE, Realign, Restructure. All our basic solid building blocks that bring the body back to balance. Exercise is important, and also emotional support, emotional freedom technique. You can go to Gary Craig's website, emofree.com, and get free instruction. Now, the next slide, diet, I'll just jump through these things because if you read any of my books, ReSet, the thyroid, what is it? Yeast reset books. I've got 11 free books at drcarolyndeanlive.com. And in most of them, I do talk about an organic diet in the ReSet Your Ideal Weight. I do the ketogenic diet. So the diet that I'm focusing on is high fat, moderate protein, moderate vegetable, low fruit because it's carbs. That's the basic diet. And the details are in ReSet Your Ideal Weight. Number 2, the next slide, is just simply about detox. It's and I'm repeating myself, but that's how people learn. So this is your bowel detox, the psyllium, the probiotics, coffee enemas. That's all in the book ReSet the Yeast Connection. For liver detox, I mentioned the Realign with the methyl groups and the sulfur, and the B vitamins, which are also in the detoxification pathways. And they, of course, the Bs support the nervous system and the adrenal glands. The skin detox, that's your saunas, either steam saunas or infrared. And you just want to do saunas a couple times a week to get your body temperature at a higher level that will kill off viruses, basically. Then there's Epsom salts baths for the skin, great way to detox. Kidneys, we're drinking our sea salted water. The parsley herbs, if you can get organic, they're great for the kidneys. And of course, all the products, the REMAG, REMITE, help heal the kidneys. They'll decalcify the kidney arteries, especially the magnesium in REMAG. Heavy metal detox, Realign. it's a perfect complement formula. In the next slide, the number 3, I, again, repeating myself, we've got the REMAG that's going to do hundreds and hundreds of enzyme processes. No nutrient comes near magnesium in what it does for the body. We don't even have it all enumerated, what magnesium is doing. But from my own health issues, I realized I needed a lot of magnesium, and that's where I came to creating the REMAG. It's a stabilized picoionic form of magnesium that has a little to no laxative effect. If you do get a laxative effect with magnesium, take it slower, dilute it, sip it through the day, and realize that you may be detoxifying intestinal organisms like yeast overgrowth. The Remite is awesome in terms of specifics. 9 of the minerals in Remite are supporting thyroid hormone production. And that's what you need to create your thyroid hormones. You do not wait for your thyroid to die and then give it thyroid hormone replacement. That's a very backward approach. Realign, I've mentioned several times, and then there's restructure. Now, the whey in restructure is a precursor to glutathione. In the realign, the methionine amino acid is also a precursor to glutathione. Glutathione is the body's major antioxidant. That's what we want to support. And I mentioned that specifically because a lot of people are taking too many, quote, antioxidants. It's just like standard operating procedure these days that nutritionists and naturopaths are giving N-acetylcysteine and the carnitine and alpha lipoic acid. It's like boom, boom, boom. Those are all antioxidants, but they're not necessary if your own body is producing its own glutathione. And also magnesium is the most important antioxidant in the body. And it takes care of the biggest inflammatory agent in the body, which is calcium, that is not directed at your bones and teeth. Calcium that builds up in soft tissues is a big inflammatory factor that is creating a lot of problems with coronary arteries, carotid arteries, and kidney arteries, blocking them up and causing a lot of our chronic diseases. And that can be overcome if the calcium is properly saturated with sufficient amounts of magnesium. I know I'm sidebarring all over the place, but just to show you how everything is interlocking. You cannot take one of these hormones and create a protocol just for that organ. You really have to put it all together. In the next slide, number 4, it's just your basics. Move your body, exercise your body. Try to go for an hour a day. Walking, yoga, T-tap is an exercise that I heartily recommend. There's Feldenkrais, there's swimming, dancing, stretching. Get your chiropractic work done too. Egoscu, you can look up that website for body alignment. Myofascial release. I'm having a wonderful time with my chiropractor who does myofascial release to really work hard at removing the scar tissue from all my various sprains and injuries over the years. Number 5, the next slide, emotional support, really important. What I don't have here, and actually I should have, is the total biology consultations that we do recommend. You see what happens with the complement formula protocols for what I'm talking about here, kind of a total body meltdown where all the hormone imbalance occurs. If you're taking all your complement formulas in the right dosages and you're focused on really healing your body, and if things aren't working out quite well, we all, not always, but we often see people who have emotions come to the surface where they're expressing symptoms that they then say, oh, this makes me feel like I did when I was a kid, or where I was being bullied, or where I had an accident, or my parents divorced. Or the emotions come to the surface when the physical symptoms are no longer either distracting them or suppressing the emotions. When you're focused on your physical symptoms, you'll get emotional about them, but uh, that won't allow you to hark back to earlier traumas. When those earlier traumas seem to surface, and you wonder what on earth is going on. I'm feeling worse, I'm feeling depressed. That's when we say emotional freedom technique, EMDR, the eye movement desensitization, and total biology consultations. We'll add that to this slide for the webinar that's going on YouTube. So total body meltdown often does requires emotional support, and the total biology aspect of that is looking at the conflict that creates disease or creates physical symptoms and what you can do to resolve those. Okay, there's no next number. The next slide. I'm just going to talk about testing. We had a wonderful radio show yesterday. Yesterday in our world was, what was that, December 11th? No, December 10th. If you go to December 10, you can find on our archives at drcarolyndeanlive.com the first half hour I talked about testing. I'm not keen on a lot of medical testing. It tends to be invasive, can cause side effects in that people can get a misdiagnosis, or something abnormal will show up and the testing goes on and on and on. With thyroid testing, I mainly look at TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. If the hypothalamus pituitary is pushing thyroid stimulating hormone to push the thyroid into producing thyroid hormones, and if that becomes elevated, then you need more thyroid support, rather than having a prescription for thyroid hormone. You need the support of our uh, hormones in terms of the minerals. I'm sorry for that sound. Don't know what's going on there. So you need support from the minerals that are in our ReMite, the 9 minerals that support thyroid function. So you look at low body temperature with the thyroid. Women who've had pregnancies will be low in their thyroid. That's just what happens. The thyroid gets strained, especially when you don't have something like ReMite to support your thyroid hormone production. You look at thyroid antibodies as well to know if you have Hashimoto's autoimmune thyroiditis with the body attacking itself. This can be cross reactions with yeast toxins, gluten, casein, and other infections. Now, the thing with Hashimoto's is they say, well, you can't use iodine with Hashimoto's because it stimulates this attack. But what I've realized over the years is that if you're just using iodine as the mineral to support the thyroid, and you're not using selenium and the other 7 minerals, you're a total of 9. So if you're just using iodine and selenium even, you're not using enough of the minerals needed to produce thyroid hormones. So our people with Hashimoto's, they treat their yeast, they avoid gluten in wheat products, gluten products, wheat, rye, oats, and barley. And they avoid casein, which is a milk protein, and they treat infections. I don't have it in this webinar. I should put Pico Silver. We use the Pico Silver in our yeast detox. In the next slide, hypothyroidism is pretty rampant. It's occurring 10 times more commonly in women than men. By age 60, which is kind of the age range of our customer population, it's 1 in 5 people. And I'm sure they're missing a lot of subclinical hypothyroidism. In the next slides, there's 4 slides here. Now you're going to be able to go to the YouTube and re-look at this webinar, put these things down if you want them. But look at all the symptoms of low thyroid. That's the first slide. Chad, if you'll go to the next slide. I'm not giving you time to read them all because, as I said, you can go back and look at these. But hoarse voice, I mean, look at the gum problems, cold hands and feet, we know, but these symptoms, I think there's a total of 80. And Chad, if you can go to the third page, low endurance, uterine fibroids, yeast infections. You know, when the temperature in the body is low, as it is with hypothyroidism, that encourages yeast overgrowth, miscarriages, anemia, tongue biting. Now, a lot of these intersect with magnesium deficiency. That's why it's so important to get the minerals in your body when you have low thyroid. The page 4 of the symptoms, polymyalgia. I mean, how many people come to us with myalgia, muscle pain, poly throughout the body? Low HDL in the cholesterol world is related to low thyroid and also to low magnesium. So I guess the lesson in looking at all these symptoms is that symptoms intersect. You can't just isolate the thyroid and say it's all about the thyroid. And a lot of practitioners, a lot of authors will do that and not realize the intersection of low minerals, especially magnesium, and yeast overgrowth. The next slide, I think this is just a repeat of the one before. Screen during and after pregnancy, treated thyroid stimulating hormone above 1.5, and the treatment is Remite. Most doctors in medicine, they'll use synthetic thyroid hormone. In alternative medicine and naturopathy, they'll use natural thyroid hormones, forgetting that the minerals are the most important building block of thyroid hormones. You can take your basal body temperature, just Google Broda Barnes or basal body temperature to see if your body temperature is low. And that's a determination of hypothyroidism. And the next slide, what did I say when I went through the diet, detox, supplements, exercise, emotional support? It's all going to intersect, be important for each of the hormonal imbalances. When one hormone is low, the other two will try to intercede and support the low hormones, but they'll eventually become low too if you don't have the right building blocks. In the next slide, just a slide showing the correspondence with menopause symptoms and low thyroid, the hot flashes, insomnia, irritability, palpitations, the fuzzy thinking can all be a result of hypothyroidism. But when I think of fuzzy thinking, I think of the brain fog of yeast overgrowth, insomnia, irritability, palpitations, low magnesium. That's why a lot of our customers have said when they take saturation doses of Remag, which is 2 to 4 teaspoons a day, they say 80 to 90% of their menopause symptoms go away. Symptoms of menopause are magnified and exaggerated because of the low thyroid situation. Low thyroid makes any illness worse. And as I said, many magnesium deficiency symptoms mimic menopause symptoms. Next slide. Sex hormone imbalance, you've got your infertility, PMS, perimenopause, endometriosis, menopause, obesity, insulin resistance, and diabetes, all associated with mineral deficiencies, especially magnesium and yeast overgrowth. Next slide. In the sex hormone testing, estrogen is compared to the norm, which is the general population that uses the lab. It's neither normal nor optimum. I mentioned this in yesterday's radio show when I had a half-hour discussion about testing in general. Now, what's very interesting about estrogen testing is that it's measured in picograms per milliliter. And that's like, gosh, is it 100,000 times smaller than a milligram? And when you're prescribed synthetic estrogens, they're in milligram doses. So just think of the huge insult on your body. It has to be huge because it's synthetic. The body's going to reject that synthetic estrogen. But if you force it with high enough amounts, it will shift. It will cause a shift in your body, but there's nothing natural about it. How does the body cope with that assault? Well, it attacks it. It creates inflammation. Now, I'm not totally against hormone replacement. I don't know if I go into slides about that, but just let me say here, I believe that for hot flashes that are disrupting a woman's sleep, if you're saturated with the ReMag, you're still having hot flashes, and you're getting vaginal atrophy, then use bioidentical estradiol, estriol, and estrone. It's the triestrogen that gives you the less, what should I say, the less mutagenic estrogens, because estradiol is the one that can cause cancer cells to develop, and that's the one we want to avoid in high doses. But in low doses, along with estriol and estrone, then a bioidentical estrogen hormone vaginal cream, along with some progesterone, can be very helpful for treating hot flashes and vaginal atrophy. The next hormone, progesterone testing, is interesting. There's no progesterone hormone production until after ovulation. So half the blood tests are invalid, because if you just do a progesterone test out of sync, then you're not going to get a true reading. There is some progesterone production, of course, in menopause. So I shouldn't say there's no progesterone production, but it's very low. So for testing of progesterone, you have to be asked by your doctor to do it 7 days before your expected period to get a true valuation. And almost all types of hormonal birth control pills switch off your progesterone. And there is almost no progesterone after menopause. So progesterone after menopause becomes more medicinal. I do it, as I mentioned about the bioidentical vaginal hormone cream, I do a triestrogen progesterone in 1/4 doses of what's recommended. The next slide. Now, this is interesting. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it's good to know your history. And this is the history of the estrogens approved in 1942. And what you work up to is it wasn't until the 70s, 30 years on, that we discovered that estrogen is associated with uterine cancer. So there's a moratorium, and a few years later they said, oh, well, if estrogen alone is bad, let's add synthetic progestins to protect the uterus. And then finally, in the 80s, where they realized estrogen is associated with a lot of symptoms. Uh, Let me just, what I have here, estrogen associated with less fractures and lower heart disease, that's what they began to float to the public. In the next slide, yes, the industry argues for hormone replacement therapy. They called menopause a disease, and they said it needed treatment. They said it protected against Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, and heart disease. But then in the following slide, they're finally admitting the risks are greater than benefits. And it wasn't until 1997, another almost 30 years before they said, oops, estrogen and progestins increase the risk of blood clots. Oops, they increase the heart attack rate. And oops, they are increasing cancer and stroke as well. And it's not preventing Alzheimer's, and there's minimal protection to the bones. The next slide, that's a mistaken repeat, I think, or am I going backwards in my slides? Yes, the next slide is a treatment. Same as above, diet, detox, our complement formulas, exercise, emotional support. The following slide, there you can add the phytoestrogens, the bioflavonoids, the soy flavonoids, not soy as food, but soy flavonoids, flax seeds, legumes, clover sprouts. All these have phytoestrogens and can help balance the body. But try to get organics. Try to use foods instead of the high dose supplements. In the following slide, jumping to adrenal testing, most of this testing is done with saliva. The findings are usually cortisol elevation, especially during the night, and practitioners will give a lot of supplements to suppress cortisol elevation. What I say is it's a magnesium deficiency. Magnesium deficiency interferes with sleep. And when that happens, your dreams can be so close to the surface that they stimulate adrenaline and cortisol, giving you those readings, interfering with your sleep, and making your adrenal stress even greater. Now, this sounds very simplistic, but hear me out, saturate with ReMag, and you will see your cortisol balancing out. And what medicine does, what allopathic medicine does, it waits for the adrenals to completely collapse. It's called Addison's disease. And then it gives synthetic cortisone and prednisones, corticosteroids, in order to replace the adrenals that have collapsed. So it's far better to use the ReMag and the minerals we're talking about. The vitamin C absolutely supports the adrenals as well. We're working to get our whole C ReSet on our website in the next couple of months to support the adrenals and the immune system and many other factors in the body. In the meantime, use a food-based vitamin C. The B vitamins, essential for the adrenals, they are in your Realign. And the next slide, yes, the adrenal connection. At menopause, the adrenals take over from the ovaries in the production of estrogen. So there's an extra strain on the adrenals. And if they're already weak, they won't be able to help out. So your menopause can be a lot more precipitous. That's what happened to me. I was doing the AIDS research in New York. I was under massive stress because my mentor died and I had to carry on the study. So, and I didn't know enough about magnesium at the time. I don't think I was on any magnesium for my heart palpitations. My heart started to palpitate. I was feeling really weak. I knew my adrenals were stressed, and then boom, early menopause. So the diagnosis of adrenals that you can sort of learn on your own is a drop in blood pressure on standing. You're lying down, you jump up, you get a bit dizzy. That's low blood pressure on standing, or you can take your blood pressure. In my practice in Toronto, I would do an ACTH stimulation test, cortisone test, and measure the amount of cortisol released when we kind of hammer the adrenals a bit. And if the cortisol release was low, we knew the adrenals were low. And the saliva testing I mentioned, they will look at DHEA levels, total, DHEA and sulfate. Well, what we know about putting magnesium on the skin is it stimulates DHEA receptors underneath the skin. So that's another reason to use your Remag lotion. The next slide, repeating again, for all the hormones, we're looking at the same factors that will balance them. I'm in number 3, the supplements, same ones, Remag, Remite, Realign, Restructure, and RNA drops as well for that miracle support of your cells. This is instead of taking each of the organs and giving you maybe 6 of the same supplements, but then another 6 extra to support each different hormone. Someone emailed today, they're on 100 supplement pills a day, with the practitioner identifying each problem and giving the recipe for each problem and each problem system. It's just not, it's not feasible. And this woman has digestive problems, and swallowing all those pills is not helping. The next slide, this is just, I know our age group is past breastfeeding and postpartum, but for your young relatives, this approach with the complement formula is going to support breastfeeding and postpartum. The Remite supports the thyroid function. Any woman who's had a child will have a drain on the thyroid. The Blue Ice Royal is our vitamin A, D3, and K2 with essential fatty acids. Ignatia is the homeopathic for postpartum depression. That, along with zinc, is crucial. Remite has your zinc. And herbs to encourage lactation. Look at the organic herbs, if you will. And yes, in the homeopathic kit that we talked about two radio shows ago, and for people who are watching this on YouTube, that was December 3rd radio show. You can go to that and get information about using homeopathy. Ignatia is very important for postpartum depression. And Remag is absolutely important for pregnancy and for postpartum. The next slide, we're going into Ginney's territory. And what I'll do now is we'll stop, see if Ginney wants me to answer some questions before she goes into the guidelines that will help you understand the use of our complement formulas. So over to you, Ginney.
Okay, great, Carolyn. Yeah, you do have a couple questions, one of which is related to having a hysterectomy. What can be said about hormones after you've had a hysterectomy?
Well, it does depend on if the ovaries are still there. If the ovaries are still there, they're still being reacted upon and producing some hormone. When you have a hysterectomy or you have your tubes tied, you can cut off the circulation to the ovaries, and they do shrink down. It is important to support all the hormones. As I mentioned, when you do hit menopause, your body turns over production of some of the sex hormones to the adrenal glands. So it's about continuing to support your adrenals and your thyroid in the face of a hysterectomy. The other thing about hysterectomies is perhaps see a myofascial practitioner who will help if there's any scar tissue left over from the hysterectomy. So it's just it's the same treatment that I've recommended all throughout: diet, detox, complement formulas, emotional support, and exercise.
Another question that we got was, why would taking the complement formulas help balance weight? Somebody texted in and said that they started losing weight almost immediately after starting on the products.
Well, are they talking about if someone is overweight? That's the more common finding. 70% of the population is overweight. And yes, you do lose weight when you're on the products, especially doing the yeast detox. But if you don't want to lose weight, then you definitely would look at the ketogenic diet and support your weight with eating a higher fat diet. I don't know if that's the answer our listener was looking for.
Okay, very good. No, she lost weight. She was overweight. She lost weight and felt that the complement formulas helped her be successful when she wasn't able to be successful. So do you think might with the thyroid, or how would you pinpoint that?
Right. Well, it's your Remag is doing a lot. I have a tongue-in-cheek article about Remag, the weight loss solution, on Mike Adams' site, Natural News, and I talk about how magnesium is very important for detoxification, for supporting the immune system, for helping fat metabolism and protein metabolism, supports the thyroid. So magnesium does a lot. Remite will support the thyroid and certainly increase your metabolism as well. They all work together. It is not one thing, and that's where we really try to encourage people to take all the complement formulas and learn how they don't really need the dozens of other supplements they may be taking. And that's in a blog called Dr. Dean's Supplement Recommendations. So yes, thank you for that comment.
Somebody typed in and said, I don't know where they'd be getting this from. Isn't Remite harder for the body to absorb because of all the heavy metals? What would that possibly mean?
Well, someone is just equating the minerals in the Remite and calling them metals. They are minerals, trace minerals mostly, that are absolutely required by the body. They're in low potency. They're stabilized ions of the minerals, so they're absorbed completely at the cellular level. So there's nothing to do with heavy metals in Remite, except it helps to detoxify heavy metals.
Wonderful. Okay, 2 more questions and then we'll motor on. First question, does CBD oil support the adrenals?
I don't know that. I have someone today I was writing back to in customer service who said the CBD oil made her very anxious and irritable and having diarrhea. So I'm getting more and more cautious about CBD oil. The more it's used, the more we're finding out about it. In some cases, not being as innocuous as we're being told. So we have to be careful about adding anything to our protocols. go slowly. If you're going to take CBD oil, make sure you have the balance of your magnesium, your ReMag, and your ReMite, so that you're not mistakenly treating symptoms of mineral deficiency with CBD oil as a, quote, medication.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah, I agree completely. Okay. And it's, I mean, let's just say that it's sexy, right? CBD oil. It's,
Yeah.
oh yeah, isn't this sexy? And it'll do so many things, but we found so many problems with it. The way it's manufactured, there's no supervision to it. People don't even know how to dose it. I think, okay. Anyway, all right, let's see. Do you have any suggestion for digestive issues, gallbladder, and oxalate issues? I do take ReMag.
Right. I mean, that digestive issues, what you do is you can go to drcarolyndeanlive.com. I now have my Future Health Now encyclopedia up there for free. It's 550 pages of information. I put it up there because I'm very concerned about people taking a lot of supplements now. Most of the supplement companies are owned by Clorox, Nestle, and Big Pharma. So the quality of the supplements may go down. So I'm trying to get people focused on our complement formulas and homeopathy as their support. In the Future Health Now encyclopedia, I have several sections about digestion, so you can read those. And oxalates, there is information that magnesium helps to metabolize oxalates. I don't know if I've blogged about oxalates, but it's another one of these things where people are avoiding when perhaps if they took their minerals, it wouldn't be so problematic. What I have here is a research paper that talks about the effects of magnesium on calcium and oxalate ion binding. So there's something about magnesium being able to intercede with these oxalates, which people equate with kidney stones. So I know that's kind of circuitous answer. I don't have a true answer, but I know magnesium is important to avoid the side effects from oxalates. And I will look into that a little more, actually, because I know there's a better answer than I've just given.
Let me ask one more question, Carolyn, and then I'm going to go on. Can Dr. Dean please talk about testosterone? My naturopath put me on some cream. Any thoughts on that, Carolyn?
Is it a male or female?
It's a female.
Well, a lot of mostly in the alt med community. Well, I don't know. I think medicine started using testosterone as well. It's one of the hormones that we have. I had a little bit in my vaginal cream for a while, but testosterone does sort of give you energy, and I think it gave me a little too much aggression, so I cut it out. I don't know that it's necessary. Maybe it's helpful for some people. I know when I talked about hormone testing yesterday, which in the YouTube world, that was December 10th, I talked about this saliva testing for the hormones. There's some accuracy in it when you first test, perhaps, but then when you test afterwards, when you're saturating your body with hormones, it's really hard to manage the levels and to know how much you require. So maybe a little bit of testosterone cream is okay mixed with your triestrogen and progesterone, but I really don't know. I avoid it.
Right. And then, I mean, I know I've heard you say before that testosterone requires magnesium as a building block. And I think one person is asking, I'm doing Remag, Remite, and Realign and wonder if they will take care of the testosterone. In other words, are those building blocks of testosterone?
Yes, but then you look at the saturation doses. A lot of our customers will say, well, I'm taking all the formulas, but then when we ask, they're on maintenance dose, whereas they still have magnesium deficiency symptoms. Maintenance dose on our label, according to what we have to put there for the FDA, is only 1 teaspoon. But if you're dealing with burning your magnesium for the dozens of reasons that I describe in the Remag booklet, which is at carolyndeanlive.com, then you're going to need more magnesium. I've said many times I had to take the 4 teaspoons a day for a year and a half before I could cut back. So just make sure you're taking enough Remag.
Okay, excellent. Let's press on with a little more information to cover our product content. So some of these questions I can answer through our next part. Number one, the first thing that we want to do, Chad, adequate hydration with sea salted water. Next slide. Is we want to make sure you're getting enough of your sea salted water. And what we know is that dehydration is common. It's a concern, especially if you have chronic symptoms. Water follows minerals into the cell where they work together for optimum metabolism. So proper hydration will lessen edema. It will help your tissues. It will improve your detox response. What you're going to want to do is drink half your body weight in ounces of water, pounds in ounces of water. So if you weigh 100 pounds, 50 ounces of water, and then add a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, Celtic salt, or pink Himalayan salt to every quart you're drinking. And then to one of those bottles, or what part of that, you'll add Remag and Remite. You can also put your Pico Silver in there if you're taking Pico Silver. Do not confuse the food that you're putting, the sea salt that you're using on your food, with the pink Himalayan sea salt that goes in your water. They're not the same. You want the interaction of the trace minerals with the H2O, with the minerals that we're giving you in our products, and you're putting that into your cells at a cellular level. Don't get it confused with what you're putting on your food, okay? Now, the next slide, we're talking about Remag, and Carolyn's talked so much about it today. And of course, why? Because it's such an extraordinary formula. Every single person in the whole wide world, and most animals, including horses, should be taking Remag. Anybody that's in your path on a daily basis should be taking Remag. If I were you, I would buy a case. I would run around with little 8-ounce bottles in my pockets and hand it to everybody you know. The world would be a much better place. I'm serious, people. Do not even know what this stuff does for people and their health. And if you've been taking it, like one of our chat line people said, I've been taking a teaspoon for a year. That's just a health maintenance dose. And if you still have magnesium deficiency symptoms, bump that up a little bit, but don't, go crazy. Add a 1/4 teaspoon, like we always recommend. 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon. Titrate your dose, build your dose, and see what happens. We had somebody say last night, I would have never thought I was going to get energy from my magnesium. Same thing with the Remite. They're very energizing because they're alive. They are living crystals of mineral light. You cannot even imagine what it looks like in a microscope. We want you to have it, use it, keep using it. Don't take it for a couple weeks. Oh, I feel better, and then set it aside. You really want to use this on a daily basis, forever and ever and ever. It's the best possible thing. And it is a defense and a shield against so many health conditions. You would just not want to ever be without it. The next slide, Remite, is the same way. It is the sister to Remag. It does have 12-part minerals, as Carolyn's talked about. We know they support the thyroid. They're in the picometer size. They're stabilized ions. And again, they're very energizing. Again, you start low and slow and you build. But these minerals are what support the adrenal function, the sex hormone production. You can use both of these formulas topically. You can use them in anywhere on your body, anywhere topically on your body, and you're going to have great success with them, as well as taking them orally, which of course we recommend. But people who have thyroid issues, I know a lot of people, and in the beginning when I was first super thyroid sensitive, I would put the Remite right on my neck, right by my thyroid. I just shake some out on my fingertips and put it on there, and it was fantastic. Next slide is about Realign. We love Realign. I say that Realign is the Cinderella at the party because she's down in the basement cleaning everybody up so the big sisters can be at the ball twirling around with the handsome prince. Because Remag and Remite are what we call peak experience products. You take them and you immediately feel them. We very rarely ever have somebody say, oh, I didn't feel anything. I mean, people always feel something because it's like a huge, powerful jolt of energy and a whack of life to your body. Well, Realign is a whack of life to your liver, and your poor liver is just down there slugging it out every day. Not as glamorous an organ as some of the others, but it's very essential. And the methionine and the taurine work together with the liver and get the liver dancing. And it's so, so, so wonderful. And it's a gentle detox. You're not stripping your body of stuff and doing all that cayenne pepper business. Good Lord. You take Realign every day with a meal 2 times a day, and you just thrive. Your skin's going to be clear. Your mind's going to be clear. You're going to have great energy, great balance, and your liver is going to be so happy. And this is especially important at this time of year because when you're popping down some extra sugar, which most people do, and it's okay, you want that Realign to help with that sugar detox because it's going to carry all of it out of there. Restructure, next slide, Chad, is so wonderful. Everybody loves Restructure, and why not? Because, I mean, how many grossiola tasting protein powders are out there? I mean, they're just by the tons. They have no flavor, they have no substance, they have no texture, they have no dimension to them. And Restructure is an incredible formula. It's got a 3-part protein hybrid in it that's amazing. It's got great RNA reset drop boosters in it. It's got lysine, so important for your immune system. And it's got great protein, a perfect amount, not high enough that it's going to turn into glucose. So you're going to love it. You can mix it with water, coconut milk, almond milk. I mix mine with heavy cream and a little water. You can mix it with regular milk. I mean, it's so good. And you can add all kinds of super scrummy stuff to it. And then the next we always talk about is our RNA reset drops. I love what we heard in our homeopathy seminar the other day. Dr. Dean did on her radio show. That is the December 3rd radio show that you can find at drcarolyndeanlive.com on homeopathy. In the second hour, Mary Aspinwall, who is a homeopath, talked about the role of homeopathy. Somebody had asked, will this product heal a chronic condition? And she said, no, that's not what it's for. It's not for that. It is to boost the body in other ways so that it has the energy to deal with the chronic condition on a different level. And that is so what the RNA drops are like. I've said it a million times. It's like running a antivirus machine, a software on your computer. It's running in the background. You never see it. You're not always really sure what it's doing until you turn it off accidentally one day and then you have a bunch of viruses. That's what the drops do. They are a booster. They are very unique. They're individual, the way they work with your body. Excuse me. And they're fabulous and fascinating because they can do anything. Sometimes when you boost your body, you don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore. Sometimes when you boost your body, you don't get colds when you travel. Sometimes when you boost your body, your hair starts growing back super thick. Sometimes when you boost your body, all the scaly skin that you had on your face goes away and your skin is silky smooth again. We don't know what's going to happen. We just know that something's going to happen. And we don't know how long it's going to take, but we know it's going to happen. So that's just the confidence that we have of years of working and taking the drops ourselves. And we invite you to have that same experience. In our next slide, managing yeast overgrowth. I just want to say one thing right now is, first of all, Carolyn is the absolute maestro at working with yeast overgrowth and just understanding the intricacies of it. She, helped write the book from the very beginning back in the 80s with Dr. Cook. And we have a customer service team that's very good at interacting with people and answering these questions. The Reset the Yeast Connection book is at drcarolyndeanlive.com. It's 200 and something pages. It has everything you could imagine. I believe section 6 goes over the entire protocol. Once you read that document and you pay attention to what's being said there, if you have questions that pertain to you personally, just craft your questions and send them to questions, questions, at drcarolyndeanlive.com or support at RNA Reset, and we will get you the information that you need. As far as resources are concerned, again, one of the things that we talked about last night, the next slide, Chad, was on the radio show, is how incredible and generous Carolyn is with giving out all this information. She's made her Future Health Now encyclopedia free. This is a 500-page book on how you can take care of your body in every single way, including homeopathy, including supplementations, including movement, including Igasku Tower. I mean, including everything. It is every trick in the book. And she's giving it away. Years and years and years of her research, providing it to the public because of her concern that people are empowered to take care of their own health. Again, at drcarolyndeanlive.com. So we have so many great resources that we offer, that Carolyn offers. We've got the Meg Miracle at amazon.com. You've got your 11 free books. You've got your products worldwide. We now have somebody who's helping us work with distributing the products in Canada, truehealthcanada.ca, Lorraine Anders, a beautiful woman. We've got Dr. Dean's blogs. And of course, we have Narelle Blakeman in Australia as well at Positive Health AU. We have Aljays out in Italy. Nice to start naming everybody. We've got people in Norway. We've got people coming on board in the Czech Republic, which is amazing. Our fantastic people at Mineral Pharmacy, Katarina. And we're going into all of South America. So this page is we're going to get bigger and bigger all the time. And we're so thrilled. Taiwan, Dr. Richard Lee. We have so many great things happening because number one, of Dr. Dean's vision, and because of how powerful Remeg is. And 2019 is going to be epic in what we're going to be able to show and tell you about what you can expect from these products going forward. Just amazing. Carolyn's blogs, drcarolyndean.com. And of course, our radio show. And I just invite everybody to call into the radio show. It's a big fat blast. We have so much fun. You can talk to Carolyn, which is one of the most fun things in the whole wide world to do anyway. And it's just an exciting, we have a great community of people who've watched and listened to the show for years. They all chime in on the chat line and share their experiences. It's just really a beautiful, beautiful place to hang out. A couple of things I want to answer. On the RNA drops, what you want to do is definitely start. All of our products have the same thing. We want you to start low and go slow because they're all powerful. And, even with the restructure, we sell individual packets. You can cut your first dose in half and just try it and see how it goes with you. Somebody said they use restructure in their bulletproof coffee, and that is common. It is a great coffee additive. Carolyn's not a fan of coffee, but I'm a fan of coffee, and I love doing that myself. And so let me just say that. And then if we haven't answered your question so far, again, support at rnareset.com. And also you can hit us up at questions at drcarolyndeanlive.com. Another thing that we want to say is, I mean, Carolyn, can you remember ever having such an amazing year in your life? Except maybe the year you married Bob.
Oh yeah, but next year is going to be even more awesome. We just keep leaping into the future. It is remarkable what's going on, and it's because of our customers. We love our customers, and they love us. So it's a mutual situation that's just ascending all of us.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. So we have a special gift in our gift bag for you today. As Chad's going to present to you in our next slide, we're going to see that our free gifts, rnareset.com/hormone-gifts, our special offer there are segments of Dr. Dean's Completement Now and a 20% off coupon for either the 16-ounce Remite or a 16-ounce Remag. And let me say, and honestly say, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and this will not happen again. This discount on these products will not happen again, not for a long, long time. So take advantage of it if you can. You should be able to pick up one or the other, if not both. 20% off. The coupon code will be there for you, and we're happy to be able to offer it to you. Really, if you've got some at home, buy some for friends and family. You cannot even know. I mean, we have the world view because we're sitting atop Dr. Dean Tower and we're looking out over the landscape of the world. And like I said, Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic, Norway, Denmark, Italy, UK, Australia, Taiwan, Canada, the United States, the worldwide audience that Dr. Dean is managing, and the incredible demand for this product it's amazing, and what it's doing for people and how they're able to live now, so we want you to experience it. We want you to enjoy it. We want you to be able to share in it, and we would love for you to share it with others. So we're offering that today, rnareset.com/hormone-gifts. And I think that is the summary of all things. Let me check my script here and make sure it is the summary of all things. Yes, it is the summary of all things. Shall we say anything else, Carolyn?
That was awesome. You are wonderful, and Chad is wonderful, and our customers are wonderful. And yes, this is your gift. This is a Christmas holiday gift to everyone. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. The offer should be good until I think sometime through the weekend, something like that. And so definitely take advantage of it. It'll be out there for a day or two. I can't even remember when we set the deadline. I'm sorry, Terry. That's not a direct answer, but we will take care of you no matter what. But for sure, get in now while you can, because next year, 2019, we're going to have a different program, and it's not going to involve this type of discounting again. All right. We're so, so happy, so blessed you were here today. Thank you all of our future people who, offer ends Friday, December 21st at 11:59 Eastern time is what somebody typed in. How exciting. Thank you, everybody. And thank you all future listeners. And again, questions at drcarolyndeanlive.com if you have any questions on today's presentation. All right. Thank you, Carolyn.
Aloha, everybody.
Mahalo. Aloha.